Shambho Mahadev Mahadev. Right. Seventeenth shloka is also a repeat. It's a continuation of 16th shloka on perceiving of mind. So we'll just see that also. तत्परागापेक्षित्वा उच्यतस्य वस्तु ज्ञाता ज्ञातम् वस्तु ज्ञाता ज्ञातम् तत्परागापेक्षितत्व चित्तस्य means an object is either known or unknown, ajnata ajnata. An object is known or unknown to the mind because of the coloring of mind, we say in a normal language. Because of the colors of the mind, because of the perception of the mind, that's it. What is perceived or cognized by an individual is entirely dependent upon the orientation and tendencies of that mind and not on the object itself. The object is not responsible for your attachments, attractions, emotions, changes, understanding, acceptance, rejections. For that, for none of them, the object is not responsible. As we said in the last shloka, it's how you perceive it. Now we explained about perception in the last session. The perception is not only based for the purpose of identification of the characteristics and properties of the object. What's the purpose? We said about the cup, tea, cup and things like that. What is the purpose of identification of that object? What's the purpose of the way we perceive? We said that we should go back to its origin, like where the clay has come and things like that. What do we mean by that? There are pluralities, there are thousands of objects in this universe. We are trying to understand these thousands of objects in front of us every day in our day-to-day life. Is it that necessary? That means you won't have time only thinking about the object. What does it mean? This means, as we said about that Karma Yoga, one is that Karma Yoga, Jnana Marga, Bhakti Marga and Sannyasa Yoga. Through Karma Yoga, one keeps on doing the karma. From there he acquires the Jnanam. From the karma, whatever Jnanam he could achieve, he could perceive, that is converted into the Jnanam and taken into the system. With that he is trying to identify that all these karmas that I have done is meant for that. It is like you take a sugar cane. You have seen the people on the street with that machine, who are making the sugarcane juice. how many sugar canes they will put it in, and then keep on grinding that in that wheel. Out of that he gets hardly, but when you crush about 2, 3 or 4 stems of that, you get a glass of juice. The identification here comes that even though the sugar cane with great difficulty, as we described about 3, 4 classes back, from the inception of seed planting and things like that, with all that difficulty we grew that to that extent. For what? Only to bring this 1 glass of juice. Right? Fields and fields of sugar cane. For what? Just one juice, in the sense, okay, from the juice you make sugar, you make this, you make that, or candies, and so many things you make out of it. They are all byproducts of it. But what? How many sugar canes are necessary in order to make that? You see? So the whole jungle you are seeing, each and every identification of each and every sugar cane is not necessary. The characteristics of the sugar cane is meant for this particular juice, from which we can make all these things. This perception of this is called perceiving. What is the perception? Perception is not that looking, you can do it. Looking at the sugarcane fields and enjoying, it's okay, fine. Birds are coming, animals are coming, elephant is coming, plucking it and eating it. All these are okay. They are, what are that? Executing a karma. That's all. From all that karma that you have executed, from the planting, growing, and ripening them, and then the animals and birds and human being all consuming them, all these karmas are meant for what? Acquiring that jnanam, that out of this is the gist, what we are supposed to consume. How can you consume it? How can you consume it? You can consume only in the form of juice. From the crystallization of the juice only, you are making sugar and sugar candy and things like that. Even an elephant eats the sugar cane. He doesn't eat the sugar cane, he takes the juice only. If there is no juice in the sugar cane, elephant would not eat it. Really? He will not eat it. No. So what is the purpose? You have to understand that it is meant for that. This is called an understanding of it. It's not that you should not see the sugar cane. No, you can see superficially. That's what I said in the previous class. We described about the superficial experimentation, perception, and the spiritual perception of it. The reality of the truth of it, you see. Most of us are entangled into the superficial experimentation and superficial perception of it, perceiving of it. So what is the purpose of perceiving all this? Material, matter, material or bhuta. Is not to understand bhuta. Understanding bhuta means what? Understanding bhuta means, like as I told you through sugar cane, I understand the juice of it. That's all. Which doesn't have any comparison with the sugar cane. That long stem there standing there. Juice doesn't have any comparison. By looking at the juice, can you make out this has come from? Suppose you have not seen a sugar cane. Somebody shows you the sugar cane juice. Can you make out that from this juice has come from that sugar cane? Can you make out? You cannot. We cannot. No? There are so many people. No? I have seen so many people, the Westerners, when they came here, they had only seen, she knows very well, they had only seen the sliced, pineapples in the tin. So for them, I am not exaggerating, this has happened with a friend of mine who came from the other country. He has not seen the pineapple. For him, whenever we say pineapple, means that slice inside the tin is what he visualizes. That's all. The day he saw the pineapple here, it's not that other countries do not grow pineapple, but this particular gentleman, he said, oh, does it look like this, and is it the way how it is being, cut and then made it like that? It's a perception. You see what happened? Because for him the perception is only that. Superficial perception. He did not bother that from where it comes and how it comes. Probably in every country it is there. It's not that in that country it is not there. Definitely is there. But what happened was that his objective, what I am trying to tell you is that our perception is only superficial. We are now bothered to find out the spiritual perception of it, you see. Here Swamiji is explaining that the practice of perception, or the activity of perception, it's a karma. The activity of the perception through an object or through the bhubhuta, through an object, is not done to identify the object as it is, but as I told you in the sugar cane, whatever analysis you make looking at the sugar cane, you cannot say the juice comes from that. It's vice versa. Both cannot be done. Then what is that? That you should understand by seeing the sugar cane, one should have the understanding that this is meant for this and these are the things what can be done. This is known. How is it known? By your way of perception. That means way of perception is that an execution of karma. That means you have seen it, you have experienced it, you have studied it, and then so this is one way of perception. Perception, karmic perception, karma through karma. Now, having known that, and there are so many other things through jnanam one can understand, through bhakti we can understand, through experiments we can understand. There are so many things, but he has seen that. So everything is a karma. So perception of superficial understanding of the bhutas is a karma. Okay. So through that karma, by executing that karma, there are people who are working in the sugarcane field. They keep growing it, they keep cutting it, and they make juice. They have no, they know this is what is happening, but there is no, the perception is not there. No, it is grown for the juice, and it is meant for the juice, and juice is meant for this. From the juice, this can be made. This analysis qualities is not there. He is only seeing things and it's happening. He has never studied about it. No, he has not perceived it. He has only, as I told you about the likes and dislikes. The likes and dislikes is a superficial form of the perception. In superficial form of the perception only, we attach emotions to that, and then we create a like and dislike. Like and dislike is purely temporary, depending upon your nature of requirement at that particular moment. No? Depending upon the country, as I told you, last time, various things we have described about it, that how we perceive it through emotion, you see. This perception. So through the object, the perception through the object becomes a habit of mind, and when the mind is habituated and characterized to identify the perceive or to perceive the truth through the bhutas, we through the bhutas, even though there are thousands of bhutas, by doing karma yogi, what happens? No, he keeps on studying through karma. Okay, analyzing this, analyzing that. Like Arjuna did, Bhagavan Krishna said, Arjuna, do karma. What karma is supposed to do there? Fighting the war. Through fighting the war, he has to identify what? He has to identify not that individuals, they are standing opposite that I am killing, I am only destroying the adharmam from the face of the world. In order to do the destruction of the adharmam I am fighting is the lesson that he has to learn from that particular karma, you see, by fighting the war. To teach him only this, they had to fight for 18 days, and it's a very historical war that has happened, and which thousands of pages of it, more than 4,500 shlokas have been written, 40,000 shlokas have been written on Mahabharata in order to explain the truth of that, the gist to get out of it. What is that? Dharmam. What is he explaining throughout the Mahabharata? What we are learning of all that? throughout Mahabharata, from the inception of Mahabharata, with the day the Shantanu, from there you start from Bhishma, and starting from there till the Swargarohana of the Pandavas, up to that, whatever you are studying is what? Dharma. How to live dharmically. With all that you see. So, great experiences throughout the life, that what you are executing through karma yoga, through karma, what you are learning is that how to live dharmically. It's only one part of it. How to live dharmically. So that through that dharmam, you should execute your life, so that you will be in a position to identify beyond all this. Not only the Bhagavad Gita is totally about the Karma Yoga and the Jnana Marga, everything is there explaining. And the whole thing is meant for identification of classification of the Dharma. So the perception of when we say Mahabharata or when we say Bhagavad Gita, the perception by the mind is that dharmic way of living, how it is to be done now. It has to be brought into that Sukshma Bhava in you. In that Sukshma Bhava, you should be in a position to execute your function. You understand? Now that means what? A human being needs 120 years. That means a normal human being's life is 120 years. In a normal human being's life is 120 years. In that 120 years, what he is supposed to learn? He is supposed to learn through the karma, through the grihastha ashrama, or through the vanaprastha ashrama, or through the sannyasa ashrama, or any ashrama, 4 ashramas they are told. In these four ashramas, what is one is supposed to learn? One is supposed to learn that how to live dharmically. When you reach in the sannyasa yoga, you should be in a position to understand what is the dharmic way of living. When you are living dharmically, then only you will be exactly doing the right way of living. That's what I told you in the beginning when we started our classes. The life and the living. When I do the right way of living, when I learn the right way of living, then only I have the true value of the life. Am I right? Today all of us have lives, is it not? We have no true value of life. Do we have? No. You play with things. Somebody says, wear the mask so that corona will not affect. No problem, we'll just violate the rules. He doesn't know, he has no value of the life, you see. He has no value of life because the way of living, he is indisciplined. Through indisciplined way of living, that means disciplined way, dharmic way of living, adharmic way of living. Dharmic way of living is meant for identification of the value of the life. Do you know what is the value of your life? Invaluable it is. It's invaluable. Why? Why do we say it's invaluable? You cannot make it, I don't know. We don't know. None of us know. Each one of us have taken how many janmas in order to get a Manushya Janma. And through Manushya Janma, what the Brahman or the nature or the Prakriti or the Purusha or the discipline of the law of discipline expects you to do is that through proper way of living, you exhaust your karmas and get the mukti or moksha or liberation. When you have renounced every bit of this ihaloka sukha and paraloka sukha, when both sukhas are renounced, then only you will be in a position to identify the dharmic way of living and the value of life. When will you know the value of life? When you realize who you are and what you are. What is it? That means identification of the you as yourself. And then when you identify what happens, when you are not attached and attracted to Bhautika Jivan and Bhautika world, that means not attached and attracted to any of the attractions and attachments, and true, you are an independent body away from this Maya, we call it as, in general it is Maya. If you are an independent identity away from this Maya, at that point of time, when you are able to see the Maya, when you are able to see the Purusha, then you identify the true value of life. Then you will know how many janmas I have taken for this purpose. For what? Only for the purpose of becoming the Brahman, becoming the Supreme, becoming the Jnani, becoming the Jnani, becoming the Jnanam, not Jnani. In fact, that's wrong. Becoming the Jnanam, becoming the Brahman. For the purpose of that only, you do that. How many examinations you write in this life? Not only in the school, in the colleges, in day-to-day life, in each and every moment, how many tests and examinations we are giving? How many tests we are undergoing? How many tests? For what? We say to pass the test. What do you mean by passing the test? I told you about the success and failure sometime in our class. Do you remember? What is success and failure? Passing that. No, you remember that? Success and failure. So we go into that. That principle is applicable to our life, is connected to that. That each test is done not for the success. Each test is done for what? To have the absolute experience of the Brahman. Not to pass. Not to please somebody and gain something out of. What is passing? Now, let us go by that. If somebody may question me, then if it is not pass, what? It is failure. Should we conclude that? What is passing and failure? Based on what? Based on what we say passing and failure. In every test there is a parameter determined. That when you go to purchase something, you bargain that and you bought that item, you think you are passed. It's a pass, no? If you could not bargain to that extent as you expected, you can say it's a failure. See, it's a relative term to your emotion. Who doesn't know the actual price of that, and you, for your emotional satisfaction or ego satisfaction, you want to bargain on that price, and if he has hiked the price and given you a rebate, you are very happy with it. Actually, did you pass? Even though you feel you are passed, have you passed? No, you are not passed. So what I am trying to tell you, all the tests and examinations have some relativity. It's a relative condition, related to something. Somebody in the university, they said you should have the cutoff marks as 99.9. Then only you will have admission for that. You see, some kind of restrictions have been provided for the purpose of convenience. There is no technical explanation for that. Is he knowledgeable or not? Have you are checking? No. Your check or your approach towards that is only to find out certain answers for the questions that is printed in the book written by somebody who has got some ideas which is right or wrong. 20 years back, medical examination has been done. They all passed, so whoever passed the examination have been proved. After 20 years, medical science has been proved. Many things have been proved wrong. Did he pass or fail? The one who was passed at that time, writing wrong answers. Today it has been proved wrong. A scientist who has experimented something that no, it has been done. So thousands of medicines have been said that no, this medical council has said that it rejected, this cannot be done. After 10 years of experience, 20 years of using it, people said it is, you create cancer, you create this cancer. Scientists who did at that point of time, he won a Nobel Prize. Did he pass or fail? What is the basis of passing and failing? There is no basis. So when I say pass, you understood what I am trying to do. Vedantically, yes, no, okay. Bhautika Jeevan mein, yes, there is a discipline drawn by that, so we have to do that, and we say call it as pass and fail, fine, no problem. But actually in Vedantically, or in the true sense of a human life, in the true sense of a human living, in our own living, there is no past, there is no fail. What is it? Experiencing, experimenting and experiencing, and through that experience, if I have exhausted my karma balas, and if I could renounce something, and if I could identify myself, or if I could identify the higher consciousness, or if I could identify, as I told you some time back, that through the Bhutas, or through the experience means through the Bhutas, even thought is a Bhuta only, mind is a Bhuta, thought is a Bhuta only, that means it's a material only, matter only. Through even the thoughts, when I cross through the thoughts, if I could identify that, through the process, if I could identify the inception of it, as I told you, remember that now? I would like to repeat it now once again, that from all the Buddhas, what is learned through the Sukshma Bhava, what we learn is that through all the Buddha, thousands of the pluralities, thousands of Buddha that is existing, we identify through learning through the Buddhas, we identify they all came from Panchabhutas. We have concised into 5. All thousands of them. Whether it is a bomb, whether it is a shell, whether it is nectar, whether it is poison, whether it is ocean, whether it is earth, whether it is galaxy, everything from these Bhutas. We come to that 5. You see how? That means a study has been made through the Bhutas, and we have understood and we came to a conclusion that they are all from this Bhutas. They are all Bhutas only. So similarly, what I am telling. We in our life, what happens? I am just directly relating to our day-to-day life. Now this is what we should understand, so that this is how we walk into spirituality. The moment you understand this failure, and well, in Bhuta, as I told you, in Bhautika Jivan, in materialistic life, certain discipline has to be followed as it has been designed, so that in order to move forward. So a boy has to pass in the examination. He has to get to, whether it is mugging up by hearting or copying or bribing, he has to get 9.99.9 somehow. Somehow you should get it. That's a different story. Okay. But in our life, there is no success now. As that's what Bhagavan said to Arjuna, that who is successful? Whether they won the war or you won the war. Who wins the war? Nobody wins the war. Nobody has lost the war, nobody has won the war. Only thing, through the experience of the war, what has happened, there was an establishment of dharma. That's all. Similarly, in our life, when we are leading our life, the value of the life will be known only through living, through the Bhutas. When we live through the Bhutas and we learn out of it, not that, that's why they said that in Vedanta, not that just you are born and died, ate, drank and slept and then died. That is not the purpose, they say. Then what is the purpose? Through this process of living, that's not living. That is just happening, that's all. Something is there, so it happens, that's all. Animal is born and it died. It just happened. No initiative, no inertia, no initiative is necessary for that. But a human being, as far as concerned, because he has got a faculty, he has got an intellect, he has got an intelligence, he has got Atma, Paramatma, everything, Bodham, Buddhi, everything is there. There are so many faculties are there. They are all been provided for a human in order to know the value of life. Highly precious is our life. Very highly precious. It's not to play with. It's not to swindle with. It's not to abuse the life. If you are abusing the living, you are abusing the life. You are not supposed to do it. You have to understand the value of life. To understanding the value of life, you have to go, the perception has to be changed, is what I am coming to. The perception of through the objects, we say, but not the perception of the object. Perception through the object of what? Of the Parabrahman or the higher consciousness have to be learned through the bhutas or through the objects. The study of the object, that's called the study of the object, has to be done for the purpose of and identify and create. For that, what is necessary for you? You should have power of discrimination. This power of discrimination is known as Nitya Anitya Bhuta. Nitya Anitya Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekam, we call it. Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekam. What is Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekam? They say in Vedanta, a person is eligible to study Vedanta only after having the quality of Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekam. Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekam is nothing but power of discrimination. The power of discrimination. Discriminating what is Nityam, what is Anityam is discrimination. Power of discrimination. Nityam is what? What is Nityam? Which is permanent. Nityam is permanent. That which is static, that which is permanent. What is Anityam? That which is temporary, perishable, movable, no? Achara, and then all that. Perishable, movable, destroyable, destructible, it's all that. Anityam, that which is temporary, which is not at all significant, that will keep on changing, is called Anityam. No? Nitya Anitya. Nitya Anitya?
Vastu Vivekam.
Vastu Vivekam. Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekam. In a Vastu, that means Bhuta. Vastu is Bhuta. In an object, Vastu is what? Object. No. In the object, what is Nityam, what is Anityam has to be understood. So we have to understand through the, so what is the purpose? Purpose through identification or studying through the object means in that object what is Nityam, what is Anityam has to be understood. In a human being, what is Nityam, what is Anityam? That what you are seeing externally, the body and the mind and emotion and his wealth and his health and power and influence and all those things are what? They are all Anityam, they are all in a fraction of a second, all these things can be just crushed, nothing will be there. But what is Nityam in him? That Chaitanyam in him is Nityam. That Parabrahman in him is Nityam. This is called Vastu Vishesham, Vastu Vivekam. Nitya Anitya Vastu Viveka. I'm just told an example, that's all. So how will you recognize? We all recognize a person by looks, by character, by behavior, by your emotional status, by thousands of things. You know how it is done. How you identify a person. Thousands of things are there. Here what he says that Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekam has to be done. Nityam, that which is permanent, that which is temporary. And then, what else he says that? Then, in the Nitya Anitya, he also say that Sukha Sampat Virakti. Virakti to the Sukha Sampat in the Ihaloka and Paraloka. What do you mean by Virakti? We have discussed this subject earlier also. It's not that. Virakti is dispassion. No. True, you can say dispassion towards that. That doesn't mean that you should not use it. You like a food, you can eat it. But dispassion for that, that means in future again, that means asakti. Virakti should come from where the Virakti should come? Virakti should come from the asakti. So, that asakti, when it is not there, then only it can be called as Virakti. Then you will not be insistent on having it repeatedly. Why we are having, we explained this, again I am just repeating the same thing. Why we are Why we are having asakti? We are because of our expectation of deriving some benefit out of it. Passion. That means you want to enjoy the karma phala. That's it. So in karma phala, when you have virakti, dispassion towards that, that means you enjoy it. You have a house, as I told you some time back in some other class. House, food, this, that. Enjoy it, no problem. You take it, have it. But don't expect it to be there tomorrow. This real person, that we all talk about it, but really we do not understand this actually. Internally, we always expect that we will be, there tomorrow. No. This is called dispassion. Non-attachment towards that. This is why non-attachment is called renunciation. Process of this is called renunciation. Creating a virakti by, how can we understand? How can you create virakti? How can you create dispassion in you? It is only through the knowledge. No other method is there for that. You have to acquire the knowledge. It can be through bhakti, it can be through jnanam, it can be through sannyasa, it can be through karma yoga, it can be through sannyasa marga. No, any marga, ultimately you should have the jnanam that I should attain the virakti. I should have the dispassion towards that. Then only I will be in a position to move forward. When I have a passion for it, when I have an attachment for it, when I have an attraction for it, when I don't have a virakti, when I don't have a dispassion for it, what happens? I keep on trying to acquire it, possess it every time. All the karmas that what you are supposed to do is kept at abeyance, and then you will be attaining, you may attain that. You trying to attain only what you have thought, only what you have the passion for it. Only, concentrating only on that. All other karmas are, eliminated. Ultimately, you may acquire that object or that vastu, that where you have the passion, then ultimately you understand that this is not any use for me, or it is only use for me for a particular purpose, or 1 hour, 2 hour, 1 day, 2 day, 1 year, 2 year, or 1 life. You understand it is only a temporary, they are all anityam. So that the power of discrimination, nitya, anitya, vastu, viveka, this viveka has to create. How can you create this viveka? Viveka is there in us. Only thing that aviveka in us has to be removed. That means when I am veiled with this attachments and attractions and the passions and expectations, that the virakti has not come to us, dispassion has not come to us because of that. So if we do not do that, if I do not practice it, I will not be in a position to know what I am coming to. I will not be in a position to lead my life in the right way, in the dharmic way, and by that I will not be able to identify the value of my life. When I identify my value of life, I identify Aham Brahmasmi, that 4 Mahavakyas will come. Prajnanam Brahma. Jnanam is Brahma. Absolute Jnanam is Brahma. From all the path, even though there is a great, I don't know why many learned people also, many of them, according to my small understanding, whatever I know, with due respects to all of them who have long discussions and then the debates on that also. There is Tarka Shastra, we call it. Debate is what? Debate is Tarka Shastra. Tarkam. What is the Tarkam? Karma Yoga is that? Is good, or Jnana Marga is good, Bhakti Marga is good, Sannyasa Yoga is good. Which one is good? There's a big discussion on that. Many people are confused. We were also confused. I was also confused. What is the truth? All the margas leads to one aim, one last result, that's called jnanam. Through karma you attain jnanam. Through bhakti you attain jnanam. This I have explained earlier also. Through vanaprastha, through explain you acquire jnanam. Through sannyasa yoga you acquire jnanam. Prajnanam Brahma. Why? Because Prajnanam Brahma. That's why. Jnanam is Brahman. True, but you can acquire the Jnanam in many ways. There are various ways have been prescribed. So in any way you can attain Jnanam, nothing wrong. There are so many people who are great bhakts are there. Through bhakti we have attained that. There is no doubt about it. Very difficult marga, bhakti. In bhakti, the total absolute understanding of the Brahman or Ishvara, God, has to be there, like Prahlada. Throw me from the peak, tip of the mountain, I will not die, Bhagavan will save me. No problem, absolutely. Absolute dependency on the Ishvara. How can it come? Absolute dependency can come only through Jnanam. No? We have always a suspicious mind when I fall. No, will I fall? Whether suppose Bhagavan is not there at the bottom to catch me. No. This question is always there in our mind. We always think that we are the most powerful people with this useless sharira and mana. Useless for anyone. This is what we think. So dependency has to be, when dependency is 100% means what? I am not the supreme, I am no one, he is everyone, everything, and he is everyone. This understanding, what is this understanding is known as Jnanam. That's all. Where it has come to? It has come to Jnanam. Bhakti, Bhagavan is everything. What is this meaning of this? What is this? This Jnanam. This is called Bhakti. You understood? It's only a paryaya of the Jnanam. Everything is Jnanam, is what I understand, of course. Everything of that's why the Mahavakya, according to Rig Veda, they have told Prajnanam Brahma. I am Atma Brahma, I said. Atma is a Brahman. What is Atma? Atma is again the Jnanam. Atma is what? It's an abstract. Can you see Atma? Abstract. Jnanam. What is that Atma? Atma is nothing but consciousness. Higher consciousness is Atma. Atma is, we call it as Jivatma and Paramatma. One is a conscious, that means at the lower consciousness, and the higher consciousness. Both are consciousness. In both Atma is there. In lower consciousness, that means Vastu Vishesha, Bhuta Visheshas. In order to identify and enjoy and learn through the Bhutas, is called the consciousness. We are all consciousness. We have. The higher consciousness is that we go into beyond the Bhutas. That what is enjoyed and seen by the Indriyas is not the truth. That beyond that what is the truth has to be identified is called traveling towards the higher consciousness, traveling beyond the mana and Indriyas. This is called emptying the mana or shunyata, we call it. Shunyata in the sense, shunyata of the bhutas. When shunyata of the bhutas happen, then we identify the Brahman, we identify the truth, we identify the inception from where everything has happened. This is called perceiving. This is called perceiving. Perceiving means that which is perceived should be permanent, nityam. It cannot be anityam. That's why I told all this. That what is perceived should be anityam. I'm sorry. It should be nityam. Brahman is nityam. This cannot be changed. In any way you want to perceive it, you can perceive it. But it doesn't change. That's why. Prajnanam Brahma. Jnanam is Brahman. I am Atma Brahma. Atma is Brahman. Anything you take is Brahman. Tattvamasi Aham Brahmasmi. These are the 4 Veda Vakyas. 4 Mahavakyas. All the 4 says that this is Brahman, that is Brahman, that is Brahman, that is Brahman. What is that? In that perception, what happened? In each perception, what happens? There is a Nityam, permanency is there, that which cannot be changed. You perceive it in any way, this cannot be changed, is called, Nityam is called perception. That which is perceived is Nityam, is perception perceived. The others are understood based on the likes and dislikes. Could you get me? Why the word perceive? It's impressed me very well. No? That's why I keep on. I was impressed on that word used, perceive. Grahyata. In Sanskrit they say that grahyata. Understood. Here also what he said that, yes. Shaikachittartham vastu. He said about the Chaika Chitta Tantram, he said. Chitta Tantram, that's perception. Chitta Tantram. Perceiving, that means Chitta Tantram. Chitta means that bodham. No? Tantra is the execution of it. Through the bodha you put Chitta Tantra. Mantra, manana, trayate, mantra. Tantra is that what you do is Tantra. That what you execute is Tantra. Chitta Tantra, that means Tantra, through the hands what you do is Kara Tantra. Kara Tantra, Mana Tantra, Mantra. So, Chitta Tantra, what is Chitta Tantra? That which is done by the Chitta Bodham. Bodham, what it does, it doesn't have a karma, but it's only a way of explanation. Bodham doesn't do any karma. Tantra is not there. But in order to explain that, what we all say that, no? Oh, what Bhagwan did. There is a problem, we use this word. Ishwar kya karte hain? Ishwar karte kuch nahi hai. Bhagwan doesn't do any. Chitta Tantra is like that only. You understood? Chitta Tantra. He doesn't do any Tantra, but it's a way of expression or explanation. Bhagwan, like God does, no? Bhagwan करते हैं, भगवान नहीं करते. भगवान somewhere we said that Bhagwan is a witness, no? साक्षी भाव. And another side we say Bhagwan करते हैं. How is it contradictory report actually? करते हैं, but it's a way of explaining is that means Bhagavatvam is expressed, projected, is called Bhagwan करते हैं. Chitta Tantra, that Chitta what is projecting, that means perceived by the Chitta, perceived by the Antaratma, perceived by the Atman, perceived by the Brahman is called the perception, that which is not changeable. What will Chittam, what will it understand? What will it absorb? That which is permanent. Like how do we take another birth? All the experiences from here, whatever is necessary, that incomplete experience, karma bhalas, brought into the Chitta as an incompleteness in the Jivatma. So the Chitta, identifying that incompleteness in the Jivatma, gives you an instruction or gives you an advice to take another birth and complete it. Chitta has not perceived it. Chitta has got only collected it. Perception of the Chitta is only the gist of all that, you see. That what is meant for, why he is advising you to do it again, that in order to give you liberation. So the Chitta, so Chitta Tantra, same way God doesn't do anything. God does, God gave me, God blesses me, God this. Ishwaratva, there is a Ishwaratva, projection of Ishwaratva. For that we do not have a proper word, so we are using gave, because we know we are only, I told you about the logical experiences and illogical experiences. Logical experiences are those which are compared with the bhutas, which are compared with the material and matter. So this term of giving only we know only through the bhuta, that means materialistic way of giving and taking, only we know. So we will understand only this process, that is why we are using the word God gives. Somebody said man proposes, God disposes. Is there any proverb like that? There is something, no? Man proposes, God disposes. It appears that man is bigger than the God. Because man is the one who is proposing. God is the one disposing, destructor. Yeah, how wrong it is, no? Tell me honestly, is it true? I don't know, it's maybe Western philosophy, maybe that, because no, that's okay, but at least in our Shastras we never say that. Man proposes, God disposes. It's not there in our Shastras, no. Maybe this can be compared to something else. When I just superficially told you. This, what do they mean by that is that we think based on the emotional satisfaction and dissatisfaction, likes and dislikes, anityam, attraction and attachments, but the God disposes of that which is the absolute perception. That means the absolute consciousness or the super consciousness or absolute consciousness disposes of that, disposes in the sense, rejects it because that is not permanent. That means, why I told you this is that when I told you that this Chittam or the God or the godliness or the Brahman, they perceive only that which is absolutely Nityam. That which is absolutely Nityam, when it is perceived, when it is understood, when it is taken care by you, is called perception. That's why perception of God. No, perception of things we call it. Others always said understanding. Understanding is a physical term. Did you understand? What have you learned in physics? We don't say, have you perceived physics? No, we don't say that. Did you understand physics? Did you understand mathematics? We don't say perceived mathematics. But when we say God perception, perceiving the Brahman, perceiving the God, perceiving the self, perceiving the identity of the self, and this is called perception. You understood the difference between them. So perception is that what is necessary. That's why he has used this particular word, chitta tantra, perceiving. And this also goes beyond. So when we told about the perception, because it's an important subject to lead our life, we should understand that our living is meant for identification of life. Identification of life in the sense, life form comes only from Brahman. That means identification of Brahman. When you identify the value of life, you identify Brahman. That's all. This is called Brahma Sakshatkara. But we don't identify the life. We only identify the living. We are bogged down with petty, small, petty things, and then we break ourselves down to achieve that or to destroy that. Some for destruction of somebody, some for achieving of something. We do only that. But actually what is there? It has to be perceived. What is that? To self-value of the self, the life has to be identified for that. When we really understood, when we really understand that my life is so precious, my life is very precious for me. Each and every moment is precious for me, because my living has to be so calculative that I should not lose knowing my life. I don't lose my life actually. I don't lose my life, because life is there, life form is there, life is there. Nobody loses the life. As we say, nobody dies. Atma is always alive. Life is, Atma is what? Life is means what? Life means Atma. Identification of Atma. This identification of Atma is there, is purely based on executing your karmas and living in your life through dharmic way, through right perception. What is dharmic way? The right perception. When you live right through the right perception, you identify the value of life, then you can live the right way. As a brahmachari lives the right way of life, as we said in Chandogya. Why they practice this life due to so what he means by that, every move every moment and every move of your life should be for the purpose of the perception of that. You do everything, no problem. When you do it, you identify, you perceive from what you have done. Is it right or wrong? What is the benefit out of it? You see? We always ask for benefit. So we are all businessmen. No? All of us are baniyas only. No? हमको क्या मिलेगा उसमें से? The next word is that. हमको क्या मिलेगा वो करने से? Absolutely right. You should ask this question, but not for the material benefit. No. But we do it for material benefit. हमको क्या मिलेगा? Absolutely right. हमको क्या मिलेगा? You should ask. You ask the same question, but with the perception of the life is asked. Here, what you are asking here through the mind and intelligence. हमको क्या मिलेगा? But the same question you ask from your Atma, from your inner self, from your life, or from your Atma, you ask, हमको क्या मिलेगा? That means when you discriminate that, most of the activities what we are doing, we will not do. What is the benefit through that? What is that called? It's called walking through the spiritual path. There are so many ways I told you, walking through the spiritual path. This is another way of walking through the spiritual path. Perceiving from every activity that you are doing. As I said, perceiving through the objects. Everything is an object. What you are doing is an object only. What you are thinking is an object. If I am thinking something, say that. Is it beneficial to promote me through my living or through my executing that? Will I get promoted towards that identification of this higher consciousness or Parabrahman? Will it benefit me through that? This question you have to ask. That means perceiving through my thought. Think anything, doesn't matter. But perceive through the thought. That means that's called perceiving through the object, studying through the object, traveling through the object. So each and every even thought or each and every activity that you are doing, perceiving through that means perceiving that which is nityam in that. What is anityam in that? What is nityam? In my thought, is it nityam or is it anityam? I thought, okay, I must buy X things. Is it nityam or anityam? Just I am telling small examples. I am doing a karma. Is it nityam or anityam? Is it necessary for me? And how will I get the result of it? Will it convert into nityam, or will it be remaining as a karma phala, which gives me another janma to take in order to fulfill that nityam anityam? Are you getting it? I am trying to attack it in. Let me call the word attack. Okay. Even though it is not right, better to perceive it. I am trying to perceive it in different ways and means, so that there is no loophole left out for the mind to escape and say that I can through this also, I can, like Ekalavya. Everybody is an Ekalavya. I want to study, but Acharya said you should take, I won't teach you now. It's not the time. You cannot learn it now, should not do it. But somehow or other, I will make an Acharya and I will learn it. Ekalavya. What benefit he has derived out of it? Even though he learned and he became, maybe better than Arjuna, became that, then what happened? Last. Vamsha Nasham has been taken place. He could not attain it. What happened? It's because of, even though we may think that the thing is right, one can appreciate it. Oh, he is meant for learning the archery, it's okay, fine. But what he has done, he lost his life. He lost his living. He lost the dharma, principle of the dharma. Acharya said not to do it and he did it. Had he not done it according to him, probably Acharya must have felt guilty and he must have taught him afterwards. Maybe. I don't know, it depends. I'm just imagining. Same thing what happens in our life, we do a lot of things. See what can be perceived out of it. Is it beneficial to me? That activity is known as walking through the spiritual path. How can you perceive things from your activity? How can you perceive things from your thought? How can you perceive things from your karmas? Is only through jnana. That's why we are here sitting and talking about perception. Nitya Anitya Vastu Viveka has to be there. In each, not only in the matter as I told, because yesterday was incomplete. No, we described about the material yesterday, and we described yes what is the purpose, but further continuing that. Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekam has to be there. Viveka has to be there. I don't know whether the Vastu is there or Vastu is not there. Vastu may be there, Vastu is not there. That's what he is telling, that the material, the object may be there or it may not be there. It depends upon the mind's coloring or the mind's perception, capacity of discrimination, that how you travel through that, he says understand the object. That means understanding the object in the sense, travel through the path of that. That's called the spiritual, this is called spiritual path, walking through the spiritual path. Identifying the spirit behind it, identifying the Atma behind it, identifying the Jnanam behind it, identifying the knowledge behind it, identifying the Brahman through which, from where it has come from the inception. Then you will find all the, when you calculate, when you see through all the pluralities, and you will identify automatically all the pluralities have come from that. Is called Advaita Siddhanta, is called walking towards the spirituality, walking to the spirituality. Don't you think that each and every activity is walking to the spirituality? Yes. Because each and every thought you are doing, each and every activity you are doing, each and everything that you are doing, you are walking towards the spirituality. You reach or don't reach. People who are able to perceive Nityam and Anityam in the right sense, he reaches the Brahman, the others do not reach. The others do have to repeat it number of times till they learn the perception, the right way of perceiving. This is called dharmic way of living. What is dharma? What is dharmic way of living? Dharma? Dharma is that identification of Brahman by executing each and every karma and each and every thought, each and every activity through is called the dharma. That identification of Brahman through all this, identification of the truth. That means when I start perceiving and identifying the dharma in each and every activity, I will do only those activities which doesn't create a karma phala for me to take another birth, but will give me, you will execute a karma, but it will give you a perception of the Brahman, and by which you will be renouncing the Anityam and identify the Nityam from that. So a process of renunciation is called walking. Another method, another. By this what we understand? Process of renunciation is called walking towards the spiritual path, through the spiritual path. No? Neti, neti, neti. Walking through the spiritual path. So there are so many ways of walking through the spiritual path, each and every. But ultimately, what I have told you, thousands of walking through spiritual paths. In each and every incident, in each and every activity, identifying through the bhuta, identifying through the vichara, identifying through the karma, that is activity, identifying through the jnanam, identifying through the bhakti, everything is spiritual. That means everything leads you towards that, the spirituality, that which from where we all have come, everything has come, the universe has come. So we identify the truth behind it. When I identify the truth behind it, with the facility and faculty that has been given to me, with that, I will be in a position to live in the right way. You understand? Not to die, not to take sannyasa. You don't have to sit Himalayas, no. As Chandogya Upanishad, Vaishambhayana said, Identification through brahmachari, identification of the Brahman has come. He lived his life. Bhagavan Shankaracharya, he identified the Brahman much earlier as a child. He lived his life, did everything. Lived his life. Many of the great knowledgeable men, Vasishtha, Vishwamitra, take anybody for that matter, who lived, great men, great noble men, great jnanis, great tapasvis, great rishis. Why? They lived their life through dharma. So by living that life, you, with an identification of the life, when you live, that means with an identification of the Brahman you are living, that living is not a bhautika jivan, it is a adhyatmika jivan, that's all. One is bhautika jivita, another is adhyatmika jivita. The jivita that is done, one who does the life living for bhautika benefits is called bhautika jivan. For the pleasures of the bhutas are the bhautika jivan. The one who lives the same life living for the identification, for the merging or the identification or the constant virtues of the Brahman, living in that is called the spirituality or the adhyatmika jivan. In adhyatmika jivan, there is only happiness. In adhyatmika jivan, there are no losses. There are only benefits. There are only gains, if I can call. I won't call it as gain because there is no loss. When there is a loss, then only we can call it as gain. Is why they said, the one who identified the living, the one who identified the life, they will live happily, they said, with a small word of happily. What is that happily? Is that without any gain, without any loss, without any emotional attachments, any detachments. No attachments, no detachments. No passion, no dispassion. Nothing is there. But what happens? Everything is in the state of Anandam. We all live that life of Anandam. Do you know that? All the human beings, invariably, whether he is walking in the spiritual path or not, every human being has a glimpse of Ananda in his life at some time or other. And not once, number of times. A small, just small, I can only tell you small examples now from which we can infer, we can draw an inference to. Suppose, yesterday, why suddenly it came to my mind. Yesterday I saw that news or something like that. We have got hot season, heat wave and things like that. Somewhere it is snowing and then all snow clad and people walking like that. And the garden is full of flowers and beautiful. The moment you look at it, you are not thinking anything about it. You are not thinking anything. For a fraction of a second or fraction of a moment, I don't know. Depends, you see. Neither we are thinking where we are sitting, neither, see, you analyze yourself. We all have undergone this, not only me. We don't know where we are sitting. I'm just going into deeper into breaking into pieces the hair the analysis. That neither I know where I am sitting, nor I am conscious that I am seeing a TV, nor I am happy, but I am in the, what is that called? Ashcharya bhava, excitement, no, not excitement. So, there is a term that where every moment you should be living in that is called spiritualism or Anandam or state of the Brahma Sakshatkaram, they call it. This is the known as, yes, surprises, in a small word we can say. They're like that, Ashcharyam. An Ashcharyam, in an Ashcharyam, that's all there. What is that emotion, Ashcharyam? Is it happiness? It's pleasure? Ashcharyam, I don't know. It is just like that. That's called Anandam, state of Anandam. Suppose one lives in that bhava throughout, it's called staying in the Anandam. always in there. There is no gain, there is no loss. You are not conscious where you are not conscious, but you are in the conscious. That's called the higher consciousness. If you are conscious, that means you are conscious of the object, conscious of the subject. It's called consciousness. You're the consciousness, or you are in the consciousness. That's called the identification of the Brahman. That's why it is in Sanskrit. That's why there's no right word. Here in Sanskrit they call it as Brahma Sakshatkara. Bhava of Aishwarya. Power of surprises of that. This is what happens in us. That's called the bhava. That's called, why did I say that? It's because I said because the reaching the state of anandam, where there is no loss and gain, where there is no kashta and dukkha, where there is no any of the dvandvata is not there. There are no dvandvatas. The twos are not there. Is why we are walking in the spiritual path, why we should walk in the spiritual path. For him you are living, you are enjoying, you can call it as enjoyment, you can call it as pleasure. They also have the pleasures, they also have the enjoyments, they got everything, but they are all nityam, not anityam. Our pleasure is anityam, temporary. We look for temporary pleasures, that's what he said. So Bhagavan said, well, we got something more to tell you, as I told you. The real subject I have not come so far. What is perceived or cognized by the individual is entirely dependent upon the orientation and tendencies of the mind and not on the object itself. Cognized by the entire, we described about it. Is orientation of the tendencies of the mind. Tendencies, he has told us. What's a tendency? Tendency is that habits, characteristics, habits, tendency. He has a tendency of drinking. He has a tendency of committing mistake. Tendency. No? What's that? It's because of the practice. How is the tendency? It's because of the practice. He has a tendency of doing that. That means he has a tendency. This tendency has come from where? It's not samskara. It's not a culture. No, is it? No. From where it has come, the tendency? How it has come? How he has got tendency in him? Committing mistakes. Somebody says that I got a tendency of committing mistakes. Whenever I do something, there's a mistake. I got a tendency of that. It's only it's an egoistic satisfaction. Accepting that I am committing mistakes. So I depend, I just escape from there to the tendency. I got a tendency. I got a tendency of falling sick. Is there any scientific, tell me honestly, is there any scientific qualification or any scientific proof the tendency of falling sick? कुछ नहीं है ना, but है हम लोग बोलते हैं, we say that, no, we have got a common language, we say that there's a tendency of falling sick. इसको है ना ज़्यादा धूप में नहीं जाना चाहिए, he's got a tendency of falling sick. This is something like our colloquial. You see, we never thought that what we are talking, you see, absolutely, there is no tendency of falling sick, how can it be? Tendency, you understood what I am trying to tell you. Insignificant way of thinking is what he is telling, is why you are identifying the object as that is called absolute insult. Swamiji says here, tell me honestly, am I right or wrong? What is perceived or cognized by the individual is entirely dependent upon the orientation and tendency of the mind and not on the object itself. It's not on the object. These tendencies have been very cleverly created by us. Why did we do that? Why did we do cleverly creating by us? Egoistic satisfaction, egoistic escapism. That's an escapism. we would like to always put the blame on all the human beings. किसी को पूछो चोरी किया? Has anybody told that आज किया? हाँ चोरी किया. I doubt very much. I'm just telling small examples here. Tendency, what is that? The mind is attached and attracted to our pleasures of our experiences. So the one who is attached to the body and the mind and the pleasures and have association with the absolute pleasures will always try to protect our misdoings of mind by justifying that he is right. He said justifying. What is justifying? Tendency. This justification, justifying by the mind is called tendency. This is how we do that. We try to protect, we are thinking that we are trying to protect ourselves from that. Absolutely not. Everybody knows it's wrong. But still every human being, from the inception of the human being it is there, and more on the Kali Yuga it is definitely too much on that. We will always put the blame on the one. We will put the blame on the climate, we will put the blame on the other person, we will put blame on the situation, we will put the blame on the circumstance, we will put a blame on the doctor, medicine, and or Vedanta, Bhagwan. We also put blame on Bhagwan. Ishvara, देखा कितना पूजा किया ये चुपचाप बैठा हुआ है. Blame on them. Tendencies, we put the blame on him. You, because of भगवान नहीं चाहता कि हम अच्छा बने, इसलिए हम ऐसे हैं. I'm just exaggerating, jokingly said. Yeah, बोलते हैं हम लोग ना, भगवान नहीं चाहते कि हमको ये हो, इसलिए हम ऐसे हैं. भगवान नहीं चाहते. Absolute tendency, you can imagine that now. What is that tendency? An intentional avoidance to satisfy the ego of mind to escape from the execution of the karmas in the right manner by putting the blame on something which is imaginable is called tendency. This is how we do it. I am telling our own facts. Not only we, all the people do it. We all, the first thing is that, when there is no way, वो ऐसा हुआ था, फिर भी स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड आई हैव डन नहीं करेगा वो, बिकॉज देखो ऐसा ऐसा सिचुएशन हुआ था, हम सोचे थे कि ऐसा होगा, इसलिए हम सोच करके हम उसका ये करने के लिए वो करने के लिए हमने ऐसा किया. Yes, all example, I mean explanations. You never say that no, I have done it. Even though you said I have done it, but the done it is in such a way that you will forget what is the purpose of asking. छोटी सी बात है, कलम रखा है, कलम नहीं मिलता है, बगल में जो भी खड़े हैं हम लोग पूछते हैं उसको, ये देखा है? Even though they must have seen it or not, हम नहीं देखा. बाद में then they will say that, oh, it was lying there only. I saw it. I saw it was there. But first he'll tell them. The instinct, the first instinct is, it's human nature. See, what happened? That's why we call it as human nature. What is that human nature? To protect ourselves. We are thinking that, we are protecting ourselves, not to blame me, you see. It's called protection. Always we are shielding ourselves. Shielding, we do not know, we are shielding to the wrong things. This is what Bhagavan says to Arjuna, that in the Vishada Yoga, that you are trying to protect yourself. Protecting means here, what is that? Creating tendencies to prevent from acting to destroy the adharmam and establish dharmam in you. Where is Arjuna establishing dharmam? Is it in the world? For Bhagavan, Lord Krishna, is it necessary for him to hire, let me put it that way, hire Arjuna to establish dharma in the world? No. Arjuna has been kept as a scapegoat for an example for everybody who learns the history afterwards. So that Arjuna should be, should purify himself towards the dharmic way of life. He purifies, he understands and he does it. This is what happens. So each individual should be in a position to, instead of he was trying to shield himself, he from the dharmam, to be taking over, because it's an instinct, human instinct, tendency to protect oneself. Immediately the first thing comes that I do not know anything. When there is problem, I did not know. Anybody is trouble in this thing? Have you seen that? No, I have not seen. Actually, I heard somebody telling me, actually he must have seen it. But to protect himself, suppose some incident took place, suppose on the way there's a murder took place. The police official comes there and asks somebody, किसने देखा? Who was seen? हमने देखा नहीं. हम तो अभी आए. Something or other. Nobody will say I have seen it, because he is expecting, he is putting himself to. The first instinct is that afterwards, okay, things may be clarified. But the first instinct in the mind is the tendency that we have created in us is that we are thinking that we are shielding ourselves. It is not that. So, okay, I have told you small examples. It's okay, fine. That is there in our life, in our bhautik jivan. But in our spiritual jivan, in our leading our life, living, we should not have this tendency of shielding adharmam in us. The adharmam in us should not be shielded, it should not be protected. For that, the proper way of living is necessary. That's called the life and living. So this living, how do we do? That means the mind. That means you are perceived. How to know this now? We are used to it now. How to change it? How to remedy has to be there. Okay, I am wrong. I do agree. But now how will I change it? Okay. It has happened. It's not my mistake. It can be society. It can be this. It can be that. We are used to it. Now I have to change it. This is where I am coming into picture. That I am telling you to walk into the path of spirituality. That means through the here, as far as this sloka is concerned, we say that whenever you have an objective experience, the objective should be, identifying the object should be identifying the object through the perception of the inception of the object and identity of the truth of the characteristics and properties of the object. That which is beneficial for me to travel towards the identification of the self is called living in spirituality. Right, clear? This is how one should be living. Now, how to make it possible? Take it. We have to do dhyan, first of all, upasana, dhyanam, learning of the Vedanta, or through bhakti, or through jnanam, or through whichever way you think it is capable of you depending on your capacity, you do it. I will always say that everything will land up in the jnanam only. This jnanam has to be acquired. Now, how is it possible? How will I gain the jnanam? In the next class, I will tell you about the Ida and Pingala and Sushumna, Kundalini and dynamic energy and the static energy, through which the experimental experience being transported to the Nityam from the Anityam. This we'll talk about next class. Om Shanti. That's how we change. Om Shanti.